Right, there's actually lots to talk about in today's video. What's going on, guys? Welcome on back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. I do hope you're doing well, mate. I really do hope that. Back on this microphone today. Welcome back to Chelsea News, of course, the daily series here on the channel where I reflect on what's being said about Chelsea, giving you my thoughts, feelings, and opinions on it. But as always, more importantly, asking for yours. And in today's video, a shout out to Giovani Quenda, who scored again twice for Sporting last night, tearing it up, that young winger. Him and Estevao could be very exciting indeed. Levi Colwill is on schedule to return to the Chelsea team this season, which could be a huge boost. Of course, many speculated that he'll be out for the entirety of the campaign. I gotta talk about Joaquin from Strasbourg, the Argentine striker who's absolutely tearing it up. Incredible, insane stats. Yes, Strasbourg fans, he's your striker. For now, joking. Am I? A little bit on that. And also, of course, this story kind of related to Chelsea with Todd Boehly and Mark Walter looking to buy the vast majority of the Lakers out in the US. And what does that mean for Chelsea's future? Of course, it might actually link to the Stamford Bridge redevelopment story that we knew caused a rift in the ownership. So we can speculate a little bit, but it could be a big story there. Guys, thanks for joining me. Settle in. Thank you as always for supporting the content. You can do so by just dropping a like on this video, subscribing if you're new, or indeed if you're a returning visitor yet to make that choice to subscribe, because we are close to 200,000 subs. Why not be the difference maker? You can also hype up the video down below. That helps apparently. Other than that, we're good to go, so let's get into it. First of all, shout out Giovani Quenda, who of course is only 18, and in the Portuguese League Cup last night in a 5-1 win, I believe it was, he had an excellent game, scoring 2 excellent goals with 2 shots on target, which of course is an 100% shot accuracy. A finisher who's confident, that's nice. You take a shot, you score a goal. That's the kind of player Chelsea Football Club are needing at the moment. Of course, there's an immense amount of chat around Giovani Quenda, and terribly exciting winger. Of course, he can play on both sides, so Chelsea fans are already projecting the future, like Estevao on the right wing, tearing it up, scoring loads of goals, Giovani Quenda on the left wing, and then, like, you know, what's going on with my hair? Just going to do this. Okay. Yeah, where was I? Getting excited about the future, you know, Estevao on one wing, Quenda on the other, and then maybe Cole Palmer in the 10. Very, very exciting indeed. So shout out, he deserves, you know, like in the same way we were talking about Estevao Willian doing well before he arrived at Chelsea here on the channel. I'm going to do the same with Quenda. I'm not going to put, you know, unnecessary, needless pressure on the kid, but he's a, you know, a rising star, as that X page suggests, and he will be arriving at Chelsea in no time at all. So be excited. Right, let's move on to today's next story and speak about Levi Colwill. Of course, it all seemed to fall down in the absence of Chelsea's young left-sided, left-footed centre-back, an excellent defender, a young leader, of course, perhaps a future Chelsea captain after Reece James, and really, really important to the build-up of Enzo Maresca's tactical style of play. Of course, in the absence of Levi Colwill, Maresca wanted to buy a new centre-back. That's how important he was to the Chelsea manager's side. Of course, you shouldn't have one player in your team that when he's absent, it all falls down. At the moment, God forbid what would happen to Man City if Erling Haaland got injured. They'd be in serious trouble. Levi did his ACL, I think it was in training, and of course this is probably an echo of the Club World Cup in the summer, you know, overloading players, and ultimately it's just a really unfortunate, I don't want to say quirk because that seems like the wrong term, side effect, casualty, perhaps, of the amount of football he played. Of course, he ended last campaign in excellent form, played an amazing Club World Cup, and was making all the right noises after Chelsea won it. Like, yeah, we're the best team in the world, ready for next season, let's go. Only for him to do his ACL, which is terribly disappointing. And of course, we've seen the sample since without him, and we all know we're missing him. But it does seem like he's training again. He's doing a lot of strength work on his knee, and he will return this season. That's what reports are suggesting now that have come out in the last day or so, which is great news because a lot of people were sort of loosely saying he will miss the season. Maybe people were saying he'll get a few games in, but perhaps if things continue to go well, if the rehab is positive, if the Chelsea medical team get it right, which they've had some hits, and some misses. Of course, Reece James probably being the biggest hit at the moment in terms of this miraculous return. Who knows, maybe Levi Colwill will be back in the Chelsea side, you know, with a good amount of games at the end of the season, which means maybe he's got a small chance to get into Thomas Tuchel's England squad. I think he'll be aiming for that personally, but of course, you don't want to rush it and risk worse injury aggravation. Easy for me to say, but you know, let's cross everything and hope Levi Colwill is back in a Chelsea shirt sooner rather than later. Right, let's move on and talk about a certain striker, Joaquin Panicelli. Check out this stats from his campaign so far in Ligue 1 versus different Ligue 1 strikers. He's got the most goals, he's got the most non-penalty goals, he's got the most goals per 100 touches, most expected goals, most non-penalty expected goals, most shots on target, most headed goals, most goals and assists, most expected goals and expected assists, most non-penalty expected goals and expected assists. I'm going to keep going here. Most possessions won, most interceptions, most defensive duels won, and the highest expected goals out performance, which means he's an excellent finisher. Now, I realise this is probably very disrespectful, me talking about this. This is a Chelsea news channel. I do talk about Strasbourg broadly, because they are connected in the multi-club ownership, but I don't want to pick their players that are genuinely not ours. Of course, I like to reference how Diego Moreira is doing really well at the moment. Look who's coming to visit. Meow, meow, meow. Okay, you can go. Of course, Diego Moreira was a Chelsea player. There are Chelsea players. What are you doing on loan there? Like Mike Penders. And my cat is just causing chaos. I don't know what to do in the recording now. You leaving? She's leaving. One sec. You know, Julio and Ciso as well. That's a weird one. Him on loan there, you know. But of course, Emmanuel Omega is their striker. He's going to stay there one more season, then return to Chelsea. Now, he's currently injured. That's why we've seen Joaquin play so much and play so well. And I joked on my social media, did we sign the wrong Strasbourg striker? Because those stats from the Argentine centre forward are insane. And I heard Liam Rosinia speak about him saying he's a proper throwback. Maybe like a more elite Mark Gu. I don't know. I don't want to be unfair here. And he's their striker. They are in some sort of existential conflict at the moment with, you know, how they feel about their ownership. It must be tough as a fan over there. So I'm just highlighting this guy. Maybe we got the wrong one. I don't want to be unfair to Omega because he did have an excellent season last campaign. He was wearing the captain's armband. He is joining Chelsea and he will be Chelsea's striker next season alongside probably Liam Delap. Yeah. So that is going to happen. But that's the plan. As far as I know, Omega hasn't signed for Chelsea to not play for Chelsea. He expects to come next summer and be like, I'm the Nicholas Jackson replacement to, you know, fight with Liam Delap for that starting spot. But my word, at least with Joaquin Panicelli, if he genuinely is the best striker, becomes like one of the best strikers in Europe, Chelsea are in a position to not let him go to Arsenal. You know what I mean? Or like a Premier League rival where it's going to hurt you. You could be like, no, actually, you're going to come to us, mate. Like, we want to, yeah. If you're going to leave Strasbourg, and Strasbourg fans will understand, if this guy's become, you know, R9, they probably realise they're not going to keep hold of him. He comes to us. He doesn't go to anyone else. He comes to us. All right? Okay? But in the meantime, happy with Omega, Delap, very excited to see him play against Wolves at time of recording. Of course, I'll review that game later. But let's move on and talk about this story with Boehly and Walter buying the Lakers. So, of course, you know, Todd Boehly's already got involvement and ownership with the LA Lakers, but citing Front Office Sports, let's learn a little bit more. Mark Walter is buying the Lakers with the help of his little friend. Walter's record-breaking deal for the iconic franchise also features his long-time business partner, Todd Boehly, with whom he co-owns the Dodgers and Chelsea. According to two sources familiar with the matter, Boehly's involvement with the deal, which is expected to close as soon as the end of this week, has not previously been reported. ESPN first reported the deal could be closed before the start of November. In total, Walter and Boehly will own about 85% of the Lakers upon the deal's completion. The size of the stakes between Walter and Boehly individually are not clear, or hasn't been clear so far, although Walter will be the majority owner and Boehly will be the limited partner. They purchased 27% of the Lakers in 2021. Interesting. Just for a further highlight of and a reminder, of course, Todd Boehly, Walter, Chelsea owners, related stakeholders, just as a reminder of a breakdown, check out this graphic. So this is courtesy of The Boot Room. As you can see, Chelsea is owned by Blueco 100%, Strasbourg as well 100%. Blueco will be looking to add other satellite clubs to go around Chelsea to feed in. Of course, Strasbourg's Ligue 1 club. They want Portuguese clubs. They want a Belgium club. They want a Brazilian club. That was part of the plan. But of course, we know there's a civil war. There's ownership split. To say down the middle, but of course it's heavily weighted to Clear Lake Capital, who, as you can see from the graphic, own 61.5% of Chelsea, of Blueco. And we know that Bedadik Bali, Jose Feliciano, and a guy called James Pade looks like here. And then Bowley's boys, it's of course him and Mark Walter and Hans-Jörg Wyss, who owns a very small percentage of Chelsea Football Club. Now, we've known for a long time there's this civil war that won't go away, and I referenced recently what Matt Law of The Telegraph said on the London is Blue podcast, just reiterated to the host Nick Villaney that this is still ongoing, that this has not gone away, and this won't be resolved, and it is intrinsically linked to the stadium. Of course, a story that I spoke about yesterday, Nizar Kinsella of the BBC gave a little update on what's left on the table, relocation, redevelopment, and go check out that video if you're yet to watch. But there was a suggestion in that piece that Earl's Court is potentially or probably off the table now, and there was this report suggesting that actually it was Todd Bowley's side that wanted to relocate to Earl's Court. And when he did one of these, conferences, and he explained when he was asked about the rift in the ownership, he sort of started speaking about the stadium, linking them together, pretty much saying this is where the problem is between my group, the Todd Bowley group, and the Clear Lake Capital boys is the stadium. And until we sort that out, it doesn't look like there's going to be total harmony here. And there was a suggestion from Matt Law that that's the case and that it's not going to end well and something's got to give. And there was also different suggestions, like I said, like the Earl's Court relocation was Todd Bowley's desire. And if that is off the table, we can start linking dots here. That's off the table. He suddenly put much more money, energy, and effort into the Lakers, now owning 85% of a massive franchise with Walter. And of course, the Dodgers is huge. The Lakers is huge. These are massive sporting franchises, probably worth a lot more than Chelsea at the moment. Is his interest going to be elsewhere? Is this an indicator that he and the Bowley group will be the side backing down from the Chelsea ownership? If you connect the dots with, of course, perhaps his loss in the desire to stadium relocate to Earl's Court, perhaps with his interest and finances being fed elsewhere into massive franchises. Is this an indicator of the beginning of the end of Todd Bowley's group or involvement in Blueco? Now, of course, Clear Lake Capital seemingly would happily absorb all the stakes, the shareholdings of Chelsea, of Blueco, from Todd Bowley. And in fact, when this, let's be quite frank, embarrassing civil war began, when they started briefing against each other, it didn't last long, and they decided to do a ceasefire, and they both stopped talking to the media. Chelsea started doing a bit better again, winning the Conference League, getting top 4, winning the Club World Cup. They probably all agreed, yeah, let's just shut up and stop arguing to the media because it's not helping the team. But at the time, they were heavily briefing against each other, both suggesting that they'll buy the other one out. It wasn't just Clear Lake Capital, the financial behemoth, saying, little Todd Bowley and friends, yeah, we'll definitely, we'll just buy them out and this will end. It was also Todd Bowley suggesting, I've got loads of investors, I've got loads of links and, availability for capital to purchase stuff. Which seemingly he's, provided evidence here with the Lakers purchase with Walter. Both sides were like, no, we'll buy you out. No, we'll buy you out. They stopped arguing, but I wonder if the situation with the stadium and now this new purchase for the vast majority of the Lakers is an indicator that maybe Todd Bowley is the guy that will leave Chelsea. Now, look, I don't think the owners have generally been massively popular with the Chelsea fans, like broadly. There's been protest, there's been uncertainty. Chelsea, of course, enjoyed a great time in terms of just winning football under Abramovich, but times have changed. Of course, he's gone. He's not coming back, and you need to be wary of not only what you've got, but what could come next, and could it be worse as well? You know, whether that's ramifications of state ownership, geopolitical issues with sports washing, maybe a different American consortium that only want to take dividends, that, you know, will be less interested in, you know, a future-proofing and a sporting structure, which seemingly these guys have done. To be honest, it's tricky. I reckon I've always sort of thought I wouldn't cry for Blueco if they left at all. I would be just concerned for what comes next. I'd just be worried for my football club, you know. What kind of practices would they do? But I think Bowley was the more popular side in the ownership over Blueco. I think he was, because I covered this. I've been doing YouTube for many, many years. Like, you know, long before Blueco bought Chelsea. I covered extensively across the Abramovich era, and even before YouTube, I had a podcast. Todd Bowley tried to buy Chelsea before, back in 2018, and he had an interest in Chelsea. He approached Abramovich to buy Chelsea. Of course, when Abramovich was sanctioned and there was the options, to me, you know, I'll die on this hill. Many people feel the same. They were the best option. The Ricketts family was probably my biggest fear. The Saudi media group was a hollow bid. You know, you had Steve Pagliuca. I don't think it was a legitimately funded reality. Do you know what I mean? So what was on the table at the time, Bowley was the best. And Bowley came in, he was like, I always joke, like he was doing the sort of presidential shaking hands and kissing babies at Stamford Bridge. He was very present. He wanted to buy like Cristiano Ronaldo and superstars and spend all this money, and Chelsea fans were like, oh, he's like Abramovich again. But of course the narrative has since sort of thickened and changed. But I do wonder if he's the one who's going to leave, for the aforementioned reasons like I've just said. And also, you sort of see Bedadig Barley walking around with the sporting directors always, don't you? You never really see Todd. Certainly not as much as you used to. I don't think Todd's been completely absent, and you have seen him with Bedad. There's a working civil relationship there now, rather than just an obvious civil war. But it's always Bedadig Barley with his little sporting director pals walking around. That's what you see pictured. Very, very interesting. So I wanted to speak about it, and because this story won't go away until it does go away, if you know what I mean. So let me know your thoughts. Please do comment down below. Keep it locked. Thank you for liking the video. Thank you for subscribing. Hit the bell notifications icon if you do subscribe, so you get notified when I upload. And I hope to see you back here soon. Take care of yourselves. Peace.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living. I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines. I rap through thought. Body bag the verse. Outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double, silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me, bitch.